All right, now I'm going to do another 3-digit number minus a 3-digit number. We have 415 minus 234. So I'm first going to line my number up vertically and aligned with their place values. The ones are lined up with the ones, tens are lined up with the tens, hundreds are lined up with the hundreds. So as usual, the first thing I do is I'm going to look at my ones place. I notice I have a 5 on top and a 4 on the floor. Well, if there's more on top, no need to stop. 5 is more than 4. So I can take 4 away from 5. 5 minus 4 equals 1. So now I have 1. Okay, there's my top. Now I'm going to look, but this time I am going to look at the tens place. So if we look at the tens place, I have a 1 on top and a 3 on the floor. If there's more on the floor, you have to go next door. I can't take 3 away from 1. I'm going to need to borrow from the place value next door. Well, the place value next to my tens is going to be the hundreds. So I'm going to borrow from the hundreds. So here I am in the hundreds place. I'm going to take 100 from the hundreds place. So first I'm going to model my number. I have 415, so I'm going to make my 400s, my 110, and my 5 ones. So that's 415. Well, I know I'm borrowing 100 because I can't take 3 tens away from 1 10. So this 100 is going to have to come next door. So I have to move it to the tens place. So I am going to move one of my hundreds. So I'll no longer have 4, I'm going to have 3 hundreds in the hundreds place. And I'm now moving that 400 over here with the 10 that I already have. So now I have my 110 over here. I'm sorry, I've moved my 100 over here to the tens place, and I still have my 5 ones. So we have 1 less 100 because we moved 100 over to the tens place. So now I've got to break that 100 up into 10 tens because 10 tens equals 100. So here I have my 300s that remain after borrowing. I've got that 100 I moved over to the tens place with the 110 we started with, and then my 5 ones. Well, like I said, we've got to break that 100 up into tens because it is now in the tens place. So 10 tens equal 100. So 1, 3, all right. I now have my 10 tens that equal my 100 that I borrowed. So If I add all of my tens together now, I now have, instead of 1 10, we now have 11 tens in the tens place. So we have 10 more tens. That 10 tens plus the 1 10 equals 11 tens. So now we can subtract the tens because we have 11 tens and we are subtracting 3 tens. Well, I can take 3 away from 11. So I'm going to subtract that, because remember, I'm sorry guys, I forgot to put we already subtracted our ones place. We always start with the ones place. We did 5 minus 4, and we took the 4 away, which left us with 1. And now we can subtract those 3 tens from our 11 tens. So I'm going to cross out those 3 tens, and that leaves me with 8, because 11 minus 3 equals 8. So I have 8 tens left. Now I can subtract my hundreds. Well, I have 3 hundreds on top, and I have 2 hundreds on the bottom, so I can subtract 2 hundreds, which leaves me with 100. So that means 415 minus 234 gives me a difference of 181. All right, now we have a 3-digit number and we are subtracting 2 digits from it. We're going to line it up vertically. So notice I made sure to line up my ones place. When I look at my ones, we'll see I have a 2 in my ones place for 312, and I have a 2 in my ones place for 72. I shouldn't have anything lined up under the 300 because there aren't any hundreds in the number 72. So I always want to make sure I line that ones place up. So if there's more on top, no need to stop. Well, 2 is not more than 2, but it's the same amount. So if I have 2 of something, I can take away 2. So 2 minus 2 will leave me with 0 remaining. So 2 minus 2 is 0. Okay, there's my top. No need to stop. I took 2 away from 2. Now it's time to go and look, you guessed it, at our tens place. So now I'm going to go take a look at my tens place. My highlighter would cooperate. There we go. And I notice, okay, I have a 1 in the tens place on top, and I have a 7 in the tens place on the bottom, or on the floor. Well, if there's more on the floor, you have to go next door. We cannot take 7 away from 1 because 7 is more than 1. So there's my 7 on the floor. Oh, it's much more than 1. So I have to go next door to the hundreds place so that we can borrow a 100. So here we are in our hundreds place. Going to model our number, we have 300. I have 1 10 and 2 ones. So right now this is our 312. Well, I know I have to move one of my hundreds over here to my tens place so that I will be able to subtract the 7 tens from the tens place on top. Right now I cannot. So let's move that 100 to the tens place. So if we move that 100 to the tens place, moving over here, I still have the 300s, but it's moved over. So now there's 2 hundreds left in the hundreds place, and I've moved one of the 100s over here into the tens place. And I have my 10 that we started with and my 2 ones that we started with from 312. So we have 100 less in the hundreds place because we've moved one next door to the tens place. Now we have to break that 100 into 10 tens because 10 tens equals 100, and we have moved that 100 to the tens place. So here are our 200s that we have left in the hundreds place right here. And then remember I moved this 100 here to be with the 110, and we have our 2 ones. Well, we have to break that 100 up. It's no longer in the hundreds place, it's in the tens place. And 10 tens equals 100. So I'm going to put my 10 tens . Okay, I have my 10 tens. And now it's time for me to add them all together. So remember I had the 110 I started with, and now I have the 100 I moved over. So I broke it up into those 10 tens, and 10 plus 1 is 11. So I no longer have 1 10, I have 10 tens because we have 10 more tens. Okay, so remember in the beginning of our problem, we already subtracted the ones place. 2 minus 2 gave us 0. Now we can subtract our tens. I'm going to take 7 tens away from 11. So I'm crossing out my 7 tens. Which leaves me with 4 tens because 11 minus 7 is 4. Now I have 2 hundreds, but remember I don't have any hundreds in my 72, so those 2 hundreds will just move on down. And I will have a difference of 240. So 312 minus 72 equals 240.